Yo guys, Gluten-Free EDC here. I'm Brian, your gluten-sensitive representative. Today I've got a knife from Artisan Cutlery in to show you. This is the Weyden, a Nick Rogers design of Niche Designs. Really beautiful looking knife. Now right off the bat, I kind of want to do a bit of a comparison because I kind of get a bit of vibe from the Artisan. Now, obviously very different knives, but you can kind of see the similarity, right? So the thinness right here, the widening out and then tapering down, I think it has similar qualities to that. Now, I don't think Artisan owns the design elements around that, right? Like they own the design, but my goodness, this is such a cool looking knife. And what's really great about the Artisan is the ergos are fantastic. And it turns out the ergos work really well on this guy. This is a much smaller guy at about 3 inches. So right off the bat, let's talk about the scales further. You've got this awesome houndstooth kind of inlay of Damascus, and man oh man, that's really cool. Damascus and me have a not the best relationship. I'm not horribly fond of it, especially like half dress or full dress knives where it's completely on that. I think it's amazing. I love handling it and seeing it. It's just not really for me personally. However, I do like pops of color, and I think that is just a gorgeous way to do that. Kind of hard to show with the lighting, but really beautiful. All sorts of different colors, pinks, purples, yellows, and oranges. Really nice. More about the scales. So you could see really nice fine milling. Again, that kind of reminds me of my patterned Artisan. But of course, it's milling. And it's definitely not like the patterned Artisan, the pattern that they use. So you just got these vertical lines, really nice, very fine. It feels so nice. It's not too deep or anything. It's not sharp at all. Really cool. Nice little tactile bit to it. Then you have these chamfers all the way around. One thing I noticed interesting, so you have a stark contrast here, so it's not 100% sharp. Bit of an indexing point. I like that aspect, to just have a little bit more to grip onto with that angle the way it does. And then we work our way around. You see right here a little bit of it's smooth, but there is definitely like that transition again. And then we work up our way. We got the body screws, and again, if that's coming through, another transition. So there's a bit different angles going on here, and I think it really helps it to just work in the hand, like just the ergonomics of it all. On the reverse side, of course, we have the same thing. This is a frame lock knife. You've got a really cool milled out clip, gorgeous clip, pretty deep carry. That's all as deep as I care about, really. Decent spring to this one, actually. I noticed like right away. I think that's because of how thin they did the clip. So I think that's a really nice working clip to go in and out of pocket. Let's open her up. So before I actually do open though, let's look at the mechanism with which we will open, and that is this flipper tab. So for those of you that watch Kev over at Knife Nerdery, he had a prototype in. The tab was definitely different. It was more straight, right? Now it kind of swoops back this way at the tip here. Now if you were to touch that, that is fairly sharp. I'm not going to want to like press my finger into that too hard. But if I get just ahead of it, it works pretty darn well. And if I get, this is my favorite way to open it, if I get my thumb just ahead of that, it kind of sits in that pocket almost. and super easy to open that up. So I think the flipper tab is an interesting design choice, an interesting solution, because before you don't have too much to go off of once the blade escapes back beyond the scale, so you really lose power to open this with. So I think it's an interesting solution. Not 100% my favorite just because of the over the top, but I think it really works well for thumb over the top. And then the front flipper aspect, just straight from the front here, right? So you put your thumb almost anywhere, it opens up. A bit hard on the camera with the angle of my hand right now. But yeah, really, really nice. I think deployment, really nice. Not my favorite with that tab, but yeah, pretty good, pretty good. Let's take a look at this gorgeous blade now. So this is going to be a bit hard to come through because it is fairly reflective. It's not a hand rub. It's, I believe, a machine satin, but it is fairly reflective. It's a really nice job that they did. I mean, you can see my face in there even. So really, really nice. You have this cool swedge up here, a flat, and then this beautiful hollow grind. I'm gonna get her a little messy now. Yeah, it's pretty thin, not horribly so. It's not dainty by any means. This is an S90V. It's a pretty tough steel, pretty cool to see. You see the Artisan Cutlery logo right there. And then on the reverse side, you've got Niche Designs, the NR for Nick Rogers, and steel and model number. Really, really nice. Not anything crazy on here. Pretty clean. So the frame lock itself, I'm not as thrilled about the lock mechanism. And what I mean is how it disengages. So lockup is really nice. You've got the steel lock bar insert. Works up real nice. It's strong. You know, this is all I care to ever test. If I can just use two hands, it's not squeezing it. You can see I was putting a decent amount of pressure there. So I think lockup, fantastic. Disengagement of the lock is a bit annoying. So there's two things that I want to say. I think access to the lock bar isn't great. So when it's open, you can see a fair amount of space. I can get my thumb in there real nice, right? But when it's open completely, that's when I'm going to actually be putting my thumb in there, and it's become quite thin. Now he does chamfer it out, and he does run grooves here to help kind of add some friction when you're doing it. It's just such a small amount of space. And then what I think is really the culprit isn't so much access to the lock bar, but rather the lock bar tension, the strength of the lock bar, if you will. So if we look here, there's this chamfer that we pointed out before. Now, he wanted, what I'm assuming is this was a design choice. Didn't want to take it beyond that chamfer. That would look, you know, maybe a little odd that the lock bar relief, that cutout right there, would go beyond that chamfer. So I assume that was a purposeful choice not to go beyond this flat into this chamfer. The problem is, in my estimation, that's about, you know, not quite, there's a little more than half, I think, of the lock bar that's been cut out, but it leaves some, unfortunately, not cut out. And then it's also not the widest lengthwise from here to here. I think what is happening as an end result of that is it keeps a lot of strain on the lock bar. So I'm not sure that those are the solutions, to cut it out deeper or widen it or both, but I believe that is what's causing that issue. But lock bar, leaves something to be desired. Especially if you're someone that likes to fidget with their knives, it makes it more difficult to enjoy in that regard. The lock works though, and you can see I am disengaging it, so it's not like it's impossible. I don't want to say like end all be all, don't get this knife because of that. No, not at all. I just find, maybe a little improvement could be worked out somehow. I'm really not certain though. That can be. Maybe that doesn't even impact it at all, and I'm dead wrong, and so be it. Like, that's totally fine. Regardless, I do think the tension on the lock bar and access coupled together make it a bit more difficult, especially, my hands are pretty cold right now, so a bit easier, actually. But the warmer I am, I think the more annoying that can be. But again, it's not an awful issue with the knife. There is some fantastic milling going on as well. So if you can see, there's 3 big holes right there, right? And you have 2 on this side, the lock bar relief matching up. Now, the reason I believe that they did that is to get the balance right on this knife. So the balance point is just about here, and I think that's really nice. For a 3-inch knife, I think you would want it kind of back a little bit so you have something to hold on to a little more. I think the weight distribution is pretty darn impressive on this knife, honestly. I'm kind of blown away by that, actually. It's about a 3-ounce knife, so not heavy by any means, if you're saying in that golden ratio. So of inch to ounce, yeah, killing it. Now, where I think this knife is truly, truly shining, outside of just overall design, because look at how unbelievably elegant this knife is. I think where it's really shining are those ergos. Oof. Like, this is fantastic. It's just enough to lock you in, so for me, my finger is hitting up against there. It's just enough. It widens out so it fills up my palm a little. It's got the flat for my thumb. It's just real nice. It feels amazing in hand. That's what she said. Anyway, yeah, I think, just not only is it unbelievably elegant, in my opinion, this is a tool that I would love to carry and use, like, just plain and simple. This handle is just, with that cutout, the swell out here, the dip here, and then out back in, it's just fantastic. There's no sharp points, no nothing. The pocket clip doesn't offer a hot spot at all. It's just really, really good. I'm kind of blown away with how comfortable this knife is in hand while maintaining such a beautiful design. Beautiful design. I love this blade shape. It's kind of like a drop point with a harpoon. Maybe you could call it a sheep's footy kind of blade, since this goes down, swoops down, and then it has some belly to it. Whatever you want to call it, it's gorgeous. I'm really, really into this knife. Really cool knife. Happy to share it. Let's do some quick size comparisons. I'll whip out the Arius. A lot of people are familiar with the Arius. It's a 3.5-inch blade, so bit stark contrast there. It's a much smaller knife, if you will, right? Then let's look at another 3-inch blade. We have the X-Mid, which I just threw a short up on. It's a really, really awesome knife. Highly recommend checking this one out. This is probably one of my all-time favorite production knives. Yeah, easily, yeah. But So there's that one, and then a 3 1/4 inch blade for is the Quiet Carry Waypoint. This has been used and abused, so we're more lining up with that. This is actually probably 3 1/4 inch. I'll throw it up on here, or at least down in the comments if it's a 3 1/4 inch blade. So my apologies for the discrepancy. But yeah, really, if you're used to the Quiet Carry Waypoint, looks to be the same exact blade, same exact handle length. So same exact length overall as well for Quiet Carry Waypoint to the Artisan Cutlery Weyden. Really, really great knife, guys. Glad I got to share it with you. Hope you enjoyed. Drop a comment below, especially about the lock bar, what your thoughts are on that. Am I crazy? Like, would that be cause for the issue? Otherwise, yeah, again, no complaints about it. What are your guys' thoughts? I think this might be a bit polarizing of a knife too. The design is not going to be for everyone, but man, it's for me. I like this design. This is a gorgeous design. And if you stuck around, one more. I don't like having a video without one of my customs. Philippe Georget, FIF 20, one of the best knives and knife makers of all time. So I had to just show that one off. 3 1/2 inch blade, so good bit bigger than this guy. But that'll be that, guys. Hope you've enjoyed. Take care.